Is it Daniel?
Yes.
Thanks
Hi.
for waiting.
Yeah, it took a while there.
Sorry.
I'll be quiet now. What do you got?
I was just wondering, like yesterday night I was sitting down and just started thinking about our national anthem, because it was, I'm from Canada, if you didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Our national anthem has God Keep Our Land Glorious and Free in it. And I know your money, the American currency, has In God We Trust on it. I have right here in my hand right now a nickel, and as I can see right on it says In God We Trust. And I know you've talked about it before. You've mentioned it a couple times that it shouldn't be there in the first place, and I agree. It shouldn't be there. And in our Canadian national anthem, God Keep Our Land Glorious and Free shouldn't be there. And I was wondering, have you ever taken any initiatives yourself, or can you give me an example of things I could do that could possibly lead to an actual change in the anthem or your Canadian or your American currency?
Other than, like in the U.S., I think other than trying to take it to court, I don't know what a person could do to alter that.
And you can't really get standing. There are people who've challenged both under God.
I think it comes under tradition or something where the courts are okay with that. But I'm not really up on it too much. But yeah, it would take a lot to get that changed.
Yeah, and that's my problem too. Is that I know it would take so much, and I'm only one person, and like I've joined a Facebook group. It's called I think it's just called Remove God from the Canadian National Anthem, and of course a little while after that, another group came up and said Leave God Alone in the Canadian National Anthem. But I'm also part of a group at my university called Free Thinkers, Skeptics, and Atheists, FreeSay. And
nice.
I've asked them on their Facebook group what we could possibly do to maybe actually get something done about this, because it's completely unfair. It doesn't make sense whatsoever, and something should be changed. And the only thing that stops it from being changed is the mass amount of walls that kind of lie in front of you to try to change this. And I can't knock them all down on my own. I was just wondering if you knew what I could do.
What's really funny to me is that it was changed to add these things in the U.S. Like,
yeah, I know
at some
about
point
that too.
It was changed because we had like for example, our pledge didn't used to have Under God in it, and then that got added. So yeah. It can be done, but I don't know.
Yeah, and that was actually, I mean, at least in the United States, it was a reaction to Red Scare, communism, godlessness. Here's the thing. Recently in Texas, they added Under God to the state Pledge of Allegiance. I objected. I'm embarrassed that it passed. I understand why it passed, and I understand that it's going to be nearly impossible to fight right now. And the reason is because what they're doing is mirroring the national pledge. The national motto of the United States is now In God We Trust. That was changed at the same time, or around the same time, that Under God was added to the pledge. In God We Trust became the national motto. It was put on our money. It was changed from E Pluribus Unum, which I think is a far, far better national motto. I don't know that there's anything that... I don't know what path you could possibly take. I think it's one of those things where you're going to have to wait for the old people to die off.
Yeah, that's usually what I kind of think. But it's kind of a little mean to think that way.
Yeah,
but it's kind of all you can really do about it.
I hate doing that, but there are a lot of things. It's unfortunately the nature of the beast. We talked a little bit on nonprofits. Racism, yes, things are getting better. The youth are generally less racist, less bigoted about homosexuality than the generation that preceded them and the generation that preceded them. And so it's a long view change where you just need to keep educating people, both on how things used to be or how things could be or how things should be, and hope for the best in the long term, because in the United States, it's very difficult to get standing to fight these things. It's an extremely unpopular effort to get it to change, given the number of God believers in the United States.
That's the thing. I think the thing that disturbs me most about it is that I probably wouldn't even care about it if it wasn't so used as leverage to hammer people over the head and try to, assault everyone with the Christian nation meme. Yeah. Because, like, for example, if I were to go to Greece, and I don't know what's on Greek money, but if I went to Greece and they had Apollo on a coin, I would probably think it was quaint. I wouldn't be like freaked out and offended that they had a god on a coin. I would probably think, oh, that's kind of neat, like an image of Apollo on this coin or whatever. And so from that perspective, it probably wouldn't bother me, except that there are people that believe this, the whole Christian nation meme, and they use that, things like that to try to assert that, this is, and sometimes they don't even realize this was added later. So
Yeah.
that to me is the dilemma, and it's like what Matt is saying. At a certain point, when you would get to a point where you actually could change it because public opinion had changed, you might not even need to at that point because there wouldn't be such a movement to assert it.
Yeah, there's two more things actually I just want to say, and then you can go ahead and talk about whatever you want to talk about. I remember there was a time on your show I was once watching, and you had a man call in, and he said at work they would listen to music, and each person would get to listen to their own specific music for a certain time, like maybe an hour. And when it came to his choice of what music to listen to, he said, I want complete silence for the next hour. And everyone said, oh, well, that doesn't count. And he said, well, why doesn't it count? And they said, because it's not music. And I find you get the similar thing with religion. It's just like, I'm atheist, I don't have a religion,
right,
and I still want to be represented. And that also keeps driving in the whole idea that people have that atheism is a religion, because you want the same kind of standing as a religion does, but you don't want the same kind of built-up dogma or the idea that somehow atheism means all these other things, like believing in evolution and stuff like that. But I like that analogy, because it's also like, is bald a hair color? It's not.
Right.
It's the absence of something, but it still deserves equal recognition, and that's why it should not be in the Canadian national anthem, and it should not be on the currency.
Right.
The other thing I was going to say is just, this is my proposal for, instead of God keep our land glorious and free, it's let's keep our land glorious and free.
Right.
Because there is no invisible man in the sky that's going to come down and make our land better. It's up to all the people in this country to do their job to make this place glorious and free. You don't sit on your hands and say, "Oh, it's all God's.
Right.
It's all God's fault. Let's let God do it." Right?
Well, that's the beautiful thing about. That's one of the things I do love about the United States documentation, is that despite the money and despite the pledge, we do have a constitution that says very firmly that the power in this nation is derived from the will of the people.
And a constitution that supports
Right. It's not a mob.
scientific investigation and money towards science,
Right.
even though we haven't been doing it.
Right. But power derives from the people. Absolutely.
I'm gonna go now, and you can say whatever you want. I just wanted to put that last thing in there, that I really think "Let's Keep Our Land" would be a very, very good kind of amendment to the national anthem.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I'm just going to go now then.
Thanks
Okay.
a lot, Daniel. Appreciate it.
Yeah. See ya.
Let's just keep going. I mean,